Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Behind the Layers on this wonderful Wednesday. I am your host, Kara Christensen. I'm board certified nutritionist, physical trainer, wellness coach, mother of three, and wife, and some woman past her 40s that is really interested in this topic of perimenopause. So, let's get started and diving in on that. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful week so far. This is a very big topic. It's a lot of things that even a lot of us women don't even know about. So I really do hope that you're tuning in, listening up, and of course, sharing is caring. If you know anybody that you might feel could gain some knowledge from this topic, please do share the podcast. Go ahead and hit the like, subscribe button, as my daughters, or my second daughter, my adopted daughter would say, smash that like button and make sure you get notified for when I do go live. So, today's topic, perimenopause. Yes, for fellas, I think you might feel like this isn't the subject for you. However, if you have a girl in your life, could be a friend, could be a coworker, could be your boss, could be students, could be a girl you are courting, married to, engaged to, or you have children, girls coming up in the house. These are topics you should know about. You just should. You should engage in learning about the females that you care about in your life, because it's important also to learn when to push their buttons and when not to do that. It's very important for the health of your relationship with said female. So, perimenopause is something I feel like we don't talk about a whole lot, especially in your 40s, 30s, some people even in their 20s. So even if you're in college, you can still be having these symptoms, which is wild to even think of. But we're going to hear from some specialists and let them tell us all about it, because this is a big subject. And I didn't even know myself, being in my 40s, I've never even heard of such a thing. Menopause is talked about all the time. And more women know about menopause. Of course, we know about our menstrual cycle. Even that, I was still learning information on. So, this is a big topic. I really hope that you're tuning in, because it's an important one. And I feel like the more we learn about our bodies, the more we learn about ourselves, the more that we learn about the ways that we can fix ourselves from the inside out naturally, healthily, without added prescriptions and foreign drugs into our body, is the best policy, right? Our bodies are so smart, so intricate. Let's let our bodies heal themselves, shan't we? So, the first thing I have up is a from a doctor. These are doctors. I kind of did a little deep dive on them in the last 24 hours, trying to figure out, you know, what they're all about. I'm all about that holistic approach, study, fact based, proven approach to wellness, health, and fitness. If for all of my beauty experts out there that are watching, and all my beauty folks, I have done um, endless training with Bumble and Bumble, Mac Cosmetics. I've been professional makeup artist, hair, skincare. Went to school to get my licensing for as an esthetician, massage therapy, literally all across the board. From all of that to fitness, um, getting licensed in that, getting licensed in wellness and nutrition, and just anything that comes along with your beauty from the inside to the outside. So, I'm here on this channel to share all of that knowledge, because it is important to find someone in life that's going to give you the real, that's going to actually take the time to do some research and not just throw out some ideals or thoughts that they might have, but just backing it with actual research on the things that will work for you, that won't work for you, that will actually benefit your life, and that you should steer clear of. So that's what this channel is all about. Behind the Layers is about bringing you the tools that you need to live your best life from the inside out. How wonderful is that, to have a platform that you can go to for your skincare, your beauty care, your hair care, your nutrition, how to eat better, how to feel better, how to sleep better, all of those things, how to get rid of the aches and the pains and the ailments. That's what Behind the Layers is about. And that's what I'm here to bring you. The things that are tried and true, that have been fact checked and have research and studies that show its knowledge. It's important to have that. It really is. You can research, literally, you can search up anything on the internet, but you have to pay attention to the value of the resource that you're getting it from. That's just facts. So we're going to start out with a little explanation on what is perimenopause, because a lot of us do not know. And that is what I'm here to do. Always know that anything I share on this podcast, you can go back and watch it again. You can fact check it on your own, do your own deep dive research. This is going to be, all my podcast videos are going to be listed on my main page. Let me see if you can see that here. Let me go back here. So my main page, right? And you go to playlists right here. You're going to go to playlist, and then the very first playlist is called Podcast InfoVids, and that is where all of these videos that I show you on here is going to be located. Therefore, you can go back if you missed something, or you want to send it, or you want to do a little bit of research on your own, go for it. It's all listed right here, so you know. And it's
the most likely time for women to commit suicide.
Okay, so this is a doctor, Dr. Mary Claire. She is going to talk to us about perimenopause. So, for those of you that don't know, just like me, and I'm a female in my 40s, yeah, it's a thing. And we should listen up, ladies and fellas, because you need to know what you should be looking for if you have someone that's going through this. Now you know how to navigate around the symptoms, or even assist in the symptoms and say, hey, I got you. This is what you're going through. And you could be talking to a female that may be mind blown that you even know as a man, and can relate and show empathy towards what she's going through. So listen and learn. Listen and learn. It's about to go down. Here we go.
The most likely time for women to commit suicide is between the ages of 45 and 55. We see a quadrupling of depression rates through the perimenopause transition. 80% of us will have significant brain fog. 85% of us will have hot flashes. Our aging is accelerating. So a woman in premenopause will have 8% of her fat will be visceral fat, okay? She goes through the menopause transition, changes nothing about her diet and exercise. That goes up to 23%. I've had multiple clinicians say, not much you can do for her. Women tend to complain. It's just her time of life.
Whoa!
Yeah, ouch.
Let's say you're finding yourself putting on belly fat, but you haven't changed anything. Your diet's the same, your exercise is the same. So you go to the doctor and then they just dismiss you by telling you to just put down the fork. Or let's say you have crazy tummy cramps, mood swings, night sweats, brain fog. And so you go to the doctor and they label you a WW and tell you it's just age, and they dismiss you. So what on earth is a WW that the doctors label us with? And how do we know if it's our hormones and the doctor is just gaslighting us?
So WW is an embarrassing story for me to tell. When I was in my training program, you know, I'm super nervous. I'm an intern. I've got my little long white coat on for the first time, and we go to the gynecology clinic to start seeing patients. And gynecology clinic is everything that's not pregnancy. So some pediatrics, some, you know, ruling out cancer. And then you get this kind of mishmash of women coming in with multiple complaints. So I pick up my chart. I'm all excited to go see this woman, and it opens it up, and she has brain fog, gaining weight, she's not sleeping, her libido's decreased, maybe she's having headaches, you know, some laundry list of very kind of vague symptoms. And so we have to check out, you know, our upper levels are in charge of us. And so I go to the man who is my, you know, chief resident, and I say, okay, I have this patient. And he goes, oh, you got a WW. And I said, okay, what's that? And he said, It's a whiny woman. And I said, oh. And he said, not much you can do for her. It's just her time of life. Women tend to complain at this time of life. You know, I'm an intern, just happy to be there. And like, this is.
What? Say what now? Come again? This is what? Come on now. You can't be a healthcare professional working with men working with women, and be calling a perimenopause, telling your symptoms, and labeling the woman a WW, a whiny woman. That is not where I thought that was going. I just skimmed through. I just did more of a research on the background of these doctors. I try to not watch all the content on there because I want to have fresh, real reactions. So I just mainly do the deep dive on the people that are talking about it. So when I'm watching these videos, I'm watching them with you first time for most cases. And that just blew my mind. A WW is a whiny woman. Yikes. I mean, I get it that some people do have a little extra wine in them. No pun intended if you're a wine drinker. But wow, really? That's it? That's where we're at right now? Okay. And I look here. I don't know. I don't label myself as anything because I'm just kind of like a free spirit thinker. So I believe a little bit of something great on all sides. My rose-colored glasses, if you will. I like to live my life that way because it keeps me in the positive and it keeps me in a happy space. And I'm still aware. I'm not an idiot, but I choose to see that there are good in most people. You can find it. Limited version of what I'm saying here, but I just feel like, no. I'm not a feminist by any measure, and I'm sorry for all the feminists out there. I do believe in women's rights. I do believe in equality all the way around. I also am a mother of sons, and I want them to be strong in their masculinity also and not be, demoralized or dehumanized because they aren't female. But females are superpowers. I mean, hello, we're built that way. We create humans in our bodies. I mean, for goodness sake, we are superhuman. But I don't like to demoralize how strong men are also. So, I sit on that fence as a mother of boys to be men. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like as a healthcare professional, and you're working with women who have these symptoms, and man, you don't know what it's like because you'll never know because you're not going to go through those symptoms. So to be a healthcare professional and say, because you're talking about your symptoms, that you're a whiny woman, you're labeled as a WW. There are whiny people out there. Trust me. I don't even let my little girl be whiny. I'm like, no, that's not going to fix anything. Fixing something is doing it. You fix it by action. You don't fix it by whining. You don't fix it by especially whining words. So I get it. I get that. But in a healthcare professional setting, as a man that's not ever going to understand those symptoms, I just feel like you don't have the right to say those words. That's my 2 cents. My very humble opinion. Before we dive into this, though, I'm meant to go here. This is like the first video I meant to go. So let's back
Here are
this up.
10 perimenopause tips I wish I knew sooner. Certified OBGYN. Number 1, inflammation is the root cause of so many things that are starting to ail us, and anti-inflammatory nutrition is the best way to combat it. Number 2, intermittent fasting is incredible at fighting inflammation. Number 3, make sure I'm getting enough magnesium. Number 4, make sure I'm getting enough vitamin D. Number 5, make sure I'm getting enough omega-3 fatty acids. Number 6, using lubrication for every single intimate encounter. Number 7, getting a good sleep hygiene habits every single night. Number 8, learning how to set boundaries in my personal life. Number 9, getting the right kind of exercise, both aerobic and resistance training. And number 10, don't roll your eyes, self-care, putting on your own oxygen mask first before you take care of everybody else in your life.
By age 50, most women have reached menopause, a stage of life marked by changes in the body caused by hormonal shifts. But it doesn't happen overnight. There is a transitional period called perimenopause that begins for most women between the ages of 40 and 44 and can last for months or even years. Dr. Martha Walsh, Senior Medical Director of Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan, is here now with more on this. Thanks for being here.
Months or years.
Thanks so much for having me, Michelle.
What are some of the common signs of perimenopause, and how early could women actually see it?
Yeah, it typically starts around age 45, but can be earlier, and it's highly variable in different women. The biggest, probably one of the first signs that they have are a change in their menstrual cycles. So, kind of counterintuitive to what you would think, rather than the menstrual cycles first getting further apart, what happens is they usually get closer together, and they usually get heavier before they actually start to space out. So that's probably the most common symptom that women have. However, they can have hot flashes, sometimes some night sweats, sleep disturbances. They can also have some dry skin. Some of the other symptoms of menopause, like vaginal dryness and things like that as well. So also women complain about having, emotional disturbances of like mood swings and just not feeling quite like themselves.
And like we said, this can happen for months or even years in some women.
Yeah, most commonly it lasts between about 5 and 10 years. And perimenopause is really that time where you have fluctuations in your hormones as your body.
Did she just say 5 to 10 years? What in the actual? Come on. Ladies, can we get a break or what? We start our menstrual cycle, some as early as 10 years old now. So we go from a menstrual cycle to what? Go all the way until in our 40s with that for a week every month or however long is yours. By the time you're actually, I just was reading about the menstrual cycle. It's 28 days out of a month. Hello. And then we're going to roll into perimenopause, which lasts 5 to 10 years. And then you go to menopause. I mean, I guess it's the price you pay to be superhuman, right? I mean, we are vessels that are able to create human beings in our body. Mic drop. It's wild. I know. I've had 3 of those, and it's crazy every time that I grew a human, like an eggplant in my body, and it's wild.
Body gets ready to go through menopause. So menopause is really when you stop ovulating and can no longer become pregnant. But there's a lot of fluctuations in your hormones that happen prior to that ultimate change happening.
Yeah, and this can be difficult. It can really be uncomfortable for a lot of women who are having trouble. What are some things that women can do to sort of manage some of these different symptoms?
Yeah, I think the first recommendation that I'd have is really to talk to your doctor about the symptoms that you're having, because there are some symptoms that you'd need to seek medical attention for. Like if you're having very heavy bleeding, that needs to have an evaluation for anemia and other issues that can happen from that as well. So I think the first thing is just to talk to your doctor. There's a lot of other things that can be done, and again, in accordance with what your doctor's recommendations are, but some women would benefit from some type of hormone therapy. There's other things that can be done to help with that. Sometimes depending on the symptoms that you're having, if it's vaginal dryness, sometimes there's some, vaginal moisturizers that can be used. Or if they're mood swing type symptoms, then sometimes they can prescribe some antidepressants or medications for anxiety or things like that that can help with mood stabilization. There's also a lot of lifestyle changes that you can make. So if it's really hot flashes that you're having, making sure that you're dressing in layers. If it's sleep disturbance, making sure that you're, sleeping with layers on that you can take off, sleeping with a fan. I know my husband frequently is really cold at night because I keep the room very cold, or I have a fan on during that time. Exercise can also be helpful. So from the perspective that it can help with sleeping, it can help with some of the weight gain that happens during menopause, but can also help with some of the mood disturbances that happen as well.
Okay. So that's about that for that. We're moving on from her because, okay, those are symptoms and you should definitely be aware of those. Those can be shifty, right? I guess if you're a pretty monotone, leveled, emotional leveled person at all times, and then all of a sudden you start getting like your emotions out of whack, more cranky and that, okay. But if you're someone like me that expresses literally all of my emotions that I was given by God, and you know, in the manner that they're a healthy manner, I wouldn't know if I'm like, oh, today something happened that frustrated me, so I'm frustrated, and then I'll get over it. So does that make someone moody? Like, what's the how? I feel like you need more defined things. I guess if you're looking at your life and you're getting more moody and more cranky, maybe that's something you're looking at. I don't know. Maybe you just go in like you're supposed to be like in your 50s. You go in, or 45 now they're making you do a colonoscopy. So maybe they're going to start, maybe that's something that they cover at your OBGYN. Like, hey, you're in your 40s now. So, I mean, they have never brought that up to me, but maybe they don't bring it up unless you bring it up. I don't know. No one's ever brought up to me at my OBGYN when I go in for my checkups. I'm like, hey, we should test your hormones now. Maybe they expect you to just bring it up if there's an issue. But how would you really know unless you have these extremities? I mean, it ebbs and flows. All of those symptoms pretty much ebb and flow, in my opinion, as a female in her 40s. So I don't know. I don't find it any different than how I was in my 20s. I literally, people are like, oh, you seem like, I mean, you're more, more wisdom, but my personality and sense of, you know, excitable and, I don't know. I feel like I am a lot of the same of who I was. So I don't know what to be looking for if that's the case. Like, oh, you're going to look for if you have dryness downstairs. But if you're coming off of your period and you've been like using tampons, and sorry to get graphic, you guys, graphic disclaimer. I mean, things change down there for a moment and then they get back to normal. So I don't know. I guess my advice, humble advice, would be just to go in, and if you're in your 40s, and just say, hey, can I get checked for perimenopause and all of the things? Not because you want to get on a prescription, because you don't. What we're rolling into right now is to learn how to fix symptoms naturally, which is where you want to go. However, if you are deficient in, let's say, B vitamins or certain type of hormone, it's good to know that, because then you can know what you need to up your ante on with supplements, because you do not want to get a prescription if you don't have to. I would definitely try the natural way before anyway. And that's what this next doctor that I'm going to bring up, that we kind of already started in, I love her because she is a specialist
You got a WW.
in this field.
The most likely time for women.
She is a specialist in this field, and she covers all of these things thoroughly
Fog.
on, let me go back to you, on the foods to eat, weight gain, the balancing your hormones, and doing it all naturally. That's where I'm sitting. We want to do that stuff naturally. We do not want to get on prescription drugs. No. All the side effects, all the things that come along with it. That's not what you don't want to go through perimenopause with all of the things. And then also you're going through perimenopause, and then you're also having all these side effects from a prescription drug, unless you absolutely have to. But let's learn about how we can go through it and subside those side effects, those symptoms, keep them at bay by the natural things that we can do. And we already learned adding extra vitamin D, having your like fish oils and stuff like that. Like you could take the supplements for that. You don't have to keep going out and eating a bunch of fish oil, but supplements for that, omega-3s, that's what I was getting at. It is great to eat salmon and fish. Salmon, really good for those if you want to eat it naturally. But taking those essential oils is really good. Doing the vitamin D is really good. Like what they said about, putting some exercise in. You don't have to go get a gym membership or go crazy on that. You could start walking. start walking in a day, or doing some chair Pilates or chair movements or wall workouts. There's so many great ones. I have so many on my channel here that you can check out. But on February 1st, along with the new challenge, we're going to start with manifesting your greatness in all of February. I am also going to start the chair workout 28 days to go along with it. So it's going to be chair routine, and I'm going to do that chair routine every single day. So starting February, get used to this face because you're going to see it. And it's the month of love. So, it's a win-win. Month of love, manifesting your greatness, doing chair routine workouts with me. What more could you want in the month of love, right? I mean, come on. Okay, let's dive back in here. Remember, I researched this doctor. She is really great, Dr. Mary Claire Haver. You have to
Gaining weight,
Yeah.
she's not sleeping, her
learn about
libido's
her.
decreased, maybe she's having headaches,
I like anybody who is holistic and trying to get an approach where you can do it naturally and no prescriptions, just
some
FYI
laundry
throwing that
list
back
of
out there.
very kind of vague symptoms. And so we have to check out, our upper levels are in charge of us. And so I go to the man who is my, chief resident,
Hi, thanks
and I
for
say,
joining.
okay, I have this patient. And he goes, oh, you got a WW. And I said, okay, what's that? And he said, it's a whiny woman. And I said, oh.
Y'all
And he
already
said,
saw my reaction.
not much
on
you can
that.
do for her. It's just her time of life. Women tend to complain at this time of life. I'm an intern, just happy to be there. And like, this is
Women
my
tend to
chief telling
complain.
me this is reality. And I'm like, okay. So I go in that room with this poor woman who I now know is probably in perimenopause or early menopause and didn't know how to put a name to, and we weren't teaching our medical professionals how to recognize this constellation of symptoms. And I've had multiple clinicians say, yeah, this was something we noticed in the female clinics, that we were taught that women tend to somaticize their symptoms, and they tend to have psychological reasons for these biological issues, which I think is ridiculous now.
Dude, that's so crazy to me, but thank you for being so honest and sharing that, because I think that really lays the groundwork to what we're going to talk about today, is that anyone listening right now, you're not crazy. It isn't normal. But we do sometimes, ourselves included, gaslight ourselves.
Yeah.
So talk to me about doctors gaslighting
honey.
us and then us gaslighting ourselves, so we can start to unwire all of this.
And I, don't want to put this on the shoulders that all doctors are bad and, they hate women and all this. This is a systemic problem. This is thousands of years of medical training coming down from the ancient Greeks and Romans, who coined the term hysteria, which was a wandering uterus, that anything that was different than what a man was going through was automatically kind of attributed to this vague notion of there's something maybe psychological going on with her, because they didn't know how to diagnose it. And, menopause wasn't even recognized until.
And look here, ladies, not man bashing here, but, people in general, in my humble opinion, they get nervous around things that are unfamiliar or unknown to them. So it's, especially if you're getting a group of men that are together and they're all experience the same, like, whoa, what's this? What's happening with these ladies? They're all bleeding at the same time. They're all emotional and going through all these things. Like, I can understand how they might feel a little in the dark on it, but that's why I feel like it's so important to talk about these subjects that are a part of our lives. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of what we go through. And not everybody goes through them. And here's why. Not everybody goes through the symptoms because of the food you're eating, because of the lifestyle you lead. So this doctor is all about that holistic approach of how you can maneuver and manipulate your life in a way that you may not even ever experience those symptoms which would be amazing, right? Who wants to have hot flashes all the time or mood swings or dry downstairs, whatever the case may be of all the symptoms? Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to experience that. So if you can learn how to do it, go through it without having to, without having to experience those things, and all natural, without bringing a medication into the picture, why not, right? I know that my mother-in-law, she gets and she's got more energy than anyone I know, and literally in her 70s. But she does progesterone and like B12, just stuff like that, like omega-3s, things like that. She's never gone through perimenopause or menopause. So I don't know. I tend to try and learn from my elders and those around me that have more wisdom and have gone through life. And it's not, obviously everybody's different, but if we can learn as females, what is this and how can we fix it without getting on a prescription that's going to give you X, Y, and Z side effects, why not, right? All about that healthy life from the inside out, trying to allow your body to do its thing and helping it along the way. Our bodies are so smart, so intricate. Our minds are so intelligent. Like literally, ladies, our bodies are built to create human beings. So it's intricate in there, right? So why not learn about it?
Just decades ago, and that the menopause was actually caused by ovarian failure, ovarian dysfunction, really has only been seriously studied in the last maybe 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can we start to look at these symptoms? In fact, you listed a few. Could you list a few more of the symptoms? So you
Sure.
said like brain fog. Because anyone listening, I want to shake people freaking awake today,
Right.
girl, is that if you're listening right now and you have any of these symptoms or something else, it could be a sign that you're in perimenopause.
So one of the most profound things that I learned in this whole menopause journey, because I kind of stopped learning about anything about menopause, and I didn't learn anything clinically significant in my OB-GYN residency. I maybe had 6 hours of lecture in a 4-year curriculum. What I learned was important, but there was a huge gap in menopause education. Then I graduate and I go out into the real world. And of course I had menopausal patients, but when I was younger, most of my patients were my age and we were having
I'm just going to take a quick pause right there. Just in case you missed that. As an OBGYN who literally is going to school to learn about the female anatomy, birthing, everything that has to do with the vaginal area, you're telling me they only spent 6 hours in their additional 4-year degree on top of their 4-year degree. They only spent 6 hours on this topic. That does not make me feel very good about just the rando OBGYN that maybe didn't do any extra deep dive like this doctor has spent decades now deep diving on the subject because she was so appalled that the male doctor in her practice labeled women WW, which is whining woman, for talking about their perimenopause symptoms and asking for help. So that's what turned her into the mogul she is now, of trying to educate women on what this is and how to adjust the symptoms in a natural way and keep them at bay. So wow, 6 hours and a 4-hour additional to your bachelor's degree that you already went to college for 4 years. And they only spent 6 hours of that 4-year program talking about this subject. That's why you got to deep dive. You can't just take advice from any even if they say I'm a OBGYN and they mainly are in delivery and they're not in the specific subject of perimenopause or menopause. You can't just trust the title. You have to go with someone who actually has experience learning about it, doing the studies, getting to the space where you need to get the facts behind it. It's a big deal. It really is a big deal. So let's continue. 6 hours. Oh my gosh. I spent 6 hours doing research on this woman
babies
on my
together
own.
and going through the same phases of life together, then we all start going through perimenopause together. And that's when my red flags started flying. Like, wait a minute, is this the best we can do for these women, for these patients? But what I've learned in the last like 5 years is that there are estrogen receptors in every organ system of our body. And when those levels become chaotic in perimenopause and then decline to less than 1% of our reproductive year levels of estradiol, there are profound effects in multiple organ systems. So let's go head to toe.
Yeah,
okay?
love that.
So the brain, the top two there, cognition, so brain fog. 80% of us will have significant brain fog. Lisa Mosconi's work with the menopause brain, she did PET scans and CAT scans and looked at brain function through the menopause transition and saw basically a complete rewiring of the brain. So most women will have significant brain fog, some to the point where like 1 in 5 will quit their jobs in perimenopause and menopause
makes
because they
sense.
don't feel like
Oh my
they can
God.
keep up with the mental load that they had no problem with before. And so that does tend to get better over time, but you've got about a 10, 15-year window where you can't function the way that you used to. So a lot of women are stepping back from the workforce, which is really their
That's so wild because it's like, okay, so now all of a sudden you get your, hey, babe, you're 40, right? So you can get in your 40s. This is something you take on. So when you have babies too, you get this because your baby just like takes all your nutrients and you're kind of left with this like chemical imbalance scenario. And so you kind of have this when you're pregnant too, and post-pregnancy is they call it post-baby brain. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, I forgot this specific word, or I forgot how to spell something real easy, or just that's what brain fog is. So brain fog is like you're having trouble locating it almost for me now that I know, the signs of dementia, my father being diagnosed with late stage dementia, learning about that, it feels like that. It's almost like that. It's like brain fog. Like you can't recall something you did just yesterday, or what day is it right now, or just like that kind of thing. It's really frustrating. But if you're in a corporate position and you're, running all of these things, and now all of a sudden you can't remember the things that you need to remember, that sucks, right? But to have to be, dehumanized in a way, and like, okay, now you have to step down because you can't handle the workload, because you can't get your mind to come up with the things it needs to do. You can't get all the ducks in a row. Your ducks are running around rampant and you're trying to hurdle them in like kitty cats, like little like wild little animals that they're not trying to, your thoughts aren't getting herded today, honey. They're not getting in line. So that sucks that that's a 5 to 10 year thing. And I think it's important for people to understand and give a little grace to women that are going through that, because you can't control it. That is, you can try your hardest. Like what she's going to talk about is eating certain foods and doing certain things to lessen the symptoms. But as a man, it's so nice to have somebody who is going to support you and take the time to learn about those things that you're going through, to be able to be there, whether you're a son or a father or a husband or a boyfriend, whatever your situation, to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you the grace today. I know you're going through this, or give you some grace is why you're going through these scenarios, that you've got this situation that I thankfully don't have to go through as a man. So I'm going to give you the space to go through it and not make you feel like it's your fault or your problem to handle on your own. I mean, it sucks. You guys don't have to go through it. We do. So learn about it. Maybe learning a little bit of something and showing a little grace, compassion, and empathy. And it might just help and change your relationships in your life too. So men, don't shy away from this topic. You need to dive in and learn too. And thank you, Hal. I appreciate that. All the love to you, my love. So here we go. Going back in.
time to lean
I
in.
really love her.
That they have all this experience. They're, if they had children, they're off away. Now they can really focus, and they can't because their brain's not working. Mental health. This is huge. This is where the most likely time for a woman to commit suicide is between the ages of 45 and 55. Okay. We see
That's
a quadrupling of depression rates through the perimenopause transition. Okay. We see, we know that
That's so
women who
sad.
are on hormone therapy in perimenopause have a much lower incidence of worsening depression or new onset depression. So this is a huge impact in women's lives.
The weight of the fact that many women may turn to suicide because of our hormones and we're not taking this seriously. Like, I just want to pause there to be like, this is why we actually...
Huge impact.
Yeah, this isn't just like women are quote unquote going crazy, right? Where it's like, oh, they're just being silly, they're forgetful. It's like, no, this is actually serious.
This is huge.
And then when you say brain fog, I just want to maybe just highlight a couple of things of what brain fog could look like to people. So would you consider, like for me, and I'm always very honest, the reason why I'm so passionate about this interview and you and your book is really that I've started to feel the symptoms. I'm 44 and doing these interviews, again, just being very transparent. I'll be on set interviewing somebody and words fall out of my head.
That's a huge thing. You lose your words, you lose your train of thought, your ability to do like complex calculations for some women who are in the STEM world and they just can't.
How?
And it's like, these were things that were effortless before for you.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you just can't and you're stumbling. So, I mean, it could be, word recall, they can't do the crossword puzzles, they can't read and retain like they used to, they can't enjoy a novel like they used to. Dr. Blooming, Avram Blooming, who wrote Estrogen Matters, he tells a story about his wife who was a breast cancer treatment and she was on some of the estrogen blockers. So not only was she menopausal, but like they were removing all the estrogen from her body as a form of cancer treatment. She was a voracious reader and could not follow along with the stories. And this was the thing that gave her the most joy. And like watching her son.
I actually feel so much better about hearing this news. Not that I feel better about it because it's in existence, but kind of give a little bit of reassurance. I don't know if there are any of you guys out there that are in your 40s and you have found yourself having to reread. I'm very intelligent and if I do say so myself, and I'm an excellent reader, and I have found myself stumbling more on words that I should know. And I know that I've known them before, but I'll find myself asking Alexa device or my Siri, what is this? What is the meaning of this one again? And it's really frustrating because I'm like, whoa, having a father that's, like I mentioned, going through the dementia.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Of course. Alexa, cancel. It's scary because I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going into dementia, or is this Alzheimer's? Having two grandmothers that had Alzheimer's. So it's scary. You think about those things and like the relation. So of course, me being me, wanting to fix everything in the moment, I'm online, I'm doing research, and I'm trying to find is there a correlation but with this? Like, how early can you get dementia? And no, that's how I stumbled upon perimenopause. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank God. I'll take perimenopause over learning that maybe I'm going through early dementia. Like, that's just scary. Perimenopause giving you those same kind of things. Like, oh my gosh, I can't recall. I'm constantly asking to my husband, babe, I know this sounds dumb. How do you spell this word again? And it's so simple, this simple word. And him knowing me as an excellent speller, I'm sure might be a little alarming too. Like, oh, okay. Really falling off here, honey. But no, now I know perimenopause is a thing. People don't talk about this very often because we're talking about menopause being something that you get in your, what I feel like 50s, 60s. But now I'm learning you can even start that in your 40s. Some people even their 30s. So this is all very interesting subject for both men and women to learn
Suffer
about.
and lose that part of her life was almost unbearable for him. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about.
Yeah, and I love that you said, it was a heartbreaking story, but I love that you said that because when you think about, okay, it's not just the brain fog in isolation, it's you lose your joy because now you can't read and focus. I find my confidence when I'm on set and I'm doing this interview and I'm in it, like I feel confidence. But the second words fall out of my head and I literally can't think of a simple word, my confidence plummets.
Right.
So I want women to know this is more than just the symptom itself. It's the effect that it can have on how you show up every day. And for me, the second it starts to dent my confidence, I'm like, oh no. Like I work on my confidence a lot. So I have to pay attention to this. So I don't want women to feel badly about it. but recognize the knock-on effect it can have. So
Yeah. The mental health, besides
Word.
depression, the anxiety, the attention deficit symptoms. So the executive
shut
functioning
down.
really
What
goes out the
part?
window. And a lot of women are telling me like they are getting set off by things that used to not bother them as much before. They just don't have the same resilience that they used to
Oh,
the
listen
same
up,
life
pal.
stressors. So, you know, what frustrated me about especially the mental health part is when I started like reviewing and researching the literature, there would always be this caveat in the older studies of this is just a tough time in women's lives. Women tend to have a lot of stress at this age. And like I sit in front of patients every day. Now, these are PhDs who are number crunchers and very smart individuals, but they're not doing this. My patients are telling me, F that. My life is stressful. It's always been stressful. There is nothing new in the stress world other than this brain is not working the way that it used to. And help me. You know, what can we do to help?
yeah, God, the identity crisis that must come along with that, right? Like, because I'm almost feeling it, because like if I'm on set, I can't find my words, my confidence starts to dip, and now my identity of like I'm a good host or I'm the type of person that always wants to do better, and actually I'm doing worse than I used to, not better. That knock-on effect, and you said 1 in 5 people quit their job. So imagine your entire identity. Let's say you choose not to have children and you're so passionate about your career and you've spent so many years on it, and then you find yourself in your late 40s or 50s now not having the confidence to do the job that you've been doing.
Right.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Not even not having the confidence.
So now we'll go
but
past the
not
head.
having-
Okay.
not just
So
not
then
having
one
the
of the next
confidence,
biggest
but not
things.
having the wherewithal. I mean, if you're running your own business, and I know it's a lot. I do this. I mean, I have so many spinning plates at all times. It just is. It's a lot. And I do at times feel like it's so overwhelming because there's so many moving parts and I'm just trying to keep it all going. And sometimes I just cannot find the structure. Even you can be as organized as you want if you just have like, okay, forgot simply all of the alarms you might have silenced or whatever. There's something that your brain kind of just shuts down and it's in this foggy state and you're trying to recall. Even to times when I don't have anything going on is the most strange for me, that I turn into like, oh my gosh, what did I forget? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Like nothing's on the books today. Like, oh my gosh, thank you. Because it gives my mind a little bit of a break from having to constantly pull it out of this fog. That was crazy. I just heard a motorcycle go like 200 miles an hour by me. Okay, so let's continue. Oh, just kidding. Going back here.
Things we see is, you know, we all know the hot flashes. That actually starts in the head. So there's a thermoregulatory center in our brain that has a very nice set point for most of our lives. And in menopause, we see serotonin levels start to change, beginning in perimenopause. And those neurotransmitters, especially serotonin, will reset the thermoregulatory center in our brain. So hot flashes are one expression of that, you know, and so 85% of us will have hot flashes, and some of them are so disruptive that you're not sleeping at night, you're not able to get through a meeting, you're not, you know, because you're just drenched in sweat. And, you know, when you have sleep disruption, everything gets worse. You can't think the next day, you're cranky, you eat more poorly, you tend to, you know, eat more calories and eat things that are higher in carbs. I mean, all of this like feeds into itself in this whole negative feedback symptom. For years, all the research focused on hot flashes. So if you look at older literature, they basically like symptomatic is hot flashes, night sweats, what they call vasomotor symptoms. Very little recognition around mental health, cognition. It's better now, like since 2020. But forever, menopause was defined by the presence or absence of hot flashes. And the only treatment indications really were, as far as giving you hormones back, were for the severity of the hot flashes, which I think.
Well, because if you think about what she said earlier about what the symptoms are, like I was saying, how can you really tell? You can't really tell a big difference if you're saying, oh, there's a change in your mood. Well, depending on what's going on in your life, and a lot of people's lives, there's going to be a change in the mood because there's a lot of things going on in people's daily lives that are different than before. So I feel like that's not a really great judge of a new symptom that you should call in about. Like, oh, I'm a little more moody. I don't know. I just feel like that might be a little absurd that that's all you can go off of. So it seems like hot flashes would be something, and women can't really even go off of, they said dryness, unless it's like an extreme case, which I don't know about, but that must be where you have to be to get this, to make it enough to make a phone call to go into your doctor. But the hot flashes now, that's different, because of course they're going to put all of the weight on that symptom, because now that's a different symptom. That's something real that you can go off of, that is very abnormal for you to all of a sudden just be like sweating profusely to death when you've done nothing. So now for me, in being in health and wellness industry, knowing that your heart rate has to go up to get that sweat going on. So if all of a sudden your heart rate's going up and you're getting these like hot flashes out of nowhere, like that's very strange. So to me, that's a symptom to pay attention to. So of course they're going to hang their hat on, okay, let's focus on the hot flashes and how to get those under control, rather than having any type of understanding about, all the other things. 5 to 10 years. Oh my gosh.
It is ridiculous. Women who have severe hot flashes tend to have cardiovascular disease, higher risk of stroke, more visceral fat. Yeah. So the hot flashes can be a bell ringer for higher risk of chronic disease.
And the hot flashes, I've heard you say, basically, you either get them when you're sick and you got a fever,
right,
or in menopause.
So why were hot flashes like automatically, why is that the cliche symptom of menopause? Right. Because you can't blame it on anything else, unless you have a fever, or maybe you have tuberculosis, which we can rule that out pretty easily. Yeah. So that leaves menopause. But what you don't see is like the woman who doesn't have hot flashes. What about her? Well, maybe she has frozen shoulder, or maybe she has gut changes, or maybe she has tinnitus or vertigo, or skin changes or hair changes. And I was like, oh, you're just aging. And definitely we're aging, but our aging is accelerating through the menopause transition. And what I mean by that is, our organs are all aging roughly at the same rate, except for our ovaries, which age twice as fast as the rest of our body.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and menopause represents when we have no more eggs. So we're born with all of our egg supply, 1 to 2 million. By the time we're 30, the average woman is down to 10% of that egg supply. And by the time we're 40, we're down to 3%.
Wow, that makes complete sense. But so the fact that the sweats are the thing that is an indicator, because up until I get it like a few decades ago, it was if you have the headache, then sleep it off, take a pill. But the night sweats were the thing. It was like, well, you can't dismiss that because there's nowhere else that a woman can go except for, like you said, the fever.
Unless she has a flu or something. So heart, one of the biggest, like I said before, was palpitations. Women are showing up in the emergency room, okay?
What?
Horrible palpitations, sweating, having nausea, having all these symptoms, and no one is thinking this could be menopause. She's getting $1 million cardiac workup. She's getting, she's having severe headache. No one is putting together that this could be the symptomatic expression of her estrogen withdrawal, of her menopause. And so we're spending billions of dollars in healthcare dollars working up all these other things where really the root cause was just estrogen withdrawal. And, most women, they're not going to the ED until things are severe. So she's probably been having palpitations for months and months and months and been categorically dismissed, sadly.
Oh, God. And then
This is super off subject. Anybody out there watching, why do they call it the ED now? I mean, what I know about anything with acronyms, ED is a pill for erectile dysfunction. And that's not what she's talking about. She's talking about the emergency room, which has always been called the ER because it's the emergency room. So can anybody explain what is the ED? Is the ED? Why did they switch the ER to the ED? I don't understand. I know that's off topic, but I'm an inquisitive, curious cat. So I just want to know. I'll have to look it up.
was it like a stat or something that if a woman goes to the doctor and a guy goes to the doctor and they are acting exactly the same and they say exactly the same symptoms, it's something like doctors will prescribe medication for women 16 minutes longer
so for pain. So if she goes to the ED and they have the exact same presentation with pain involved, it's 16 more minutes for her to get a pain med, and she's more likely to be prescribed anti-anxiety medication.
Instead of actually looking at the hormones.
Yeah.
So why
What?
are we women with the same symptoms as guys, why does it take us 16 more, on average, 16 more minutes?
Well, back to, how women in general are studied in medicine and women are treated in emergency room. Okay.
I'm sorry, y'all. I have to back it up. Maybe I'm confused about what's being said here, but
By the time we're 30, the average woman is down to 10% of that egg
Okay, well,
supply. And by the
never
time we're
mind.
40,
Like,
we're down to
not that
3%.
Wow, that makes complete sense. But so the fact that the sweats are the thing that is an indicator, because up until I get it like a few decades ago, it was if you have the headache, then sleep it off, take a pill. But the night sweats were the thing. It's like, well, you can't dismiss that because there's nowhere else that a woman can go except for, like you said, the fever.
Unless she has a flu or something. So heart, one of the biggest, like I said before, was palpitations.
Okay.
Women are showing up in the emergency room, okay? Horrible palpitations, sweating,
Women
having
showing up in
nausea, having all these symptoms, and no one is thinking this could be menopause. She's getting $1 million cardiac workup. She's getting, she's having severe head. No one is putting together that this could be the symptomatic expression of her estrogen withdrawal, of her menopause. And so we're spending billions of dollars in healthcare dollars working up all these other things where really the root cause was just estrogen withdrawal. And, most women, they're not going to the ED until things are severe. So she's probably been having palpitations for months and months and months and been categorically dismissed, sadly.
Oh God! And then don't we? Was it like a stat or something that if a woman goes to the doctor and a guy goes to the doctor and they are acting exactly the same and they say exactly the same symptoms, it's something like doctors will prescribe medication for women 16 minutes longer
so for
than
pain. So
for
if she
pain.
goes to the ED and they have the exact same presentation with pain involved, it's 16 more minutes for her to get a pain med, and she's more likely to be prescribed anti-anxiety medication.
Instead of actually looking at the hormones.
Yeah.
So why are we women with the same symptoms as guys, why does it take us 16 more on average?
I thought that's what she said. So instead of, and this goes back to what she said though. She's a doctor, an OBGYN. She said when she was going to school for that extra 4 years becoming an OBGYN, they only spend like 6 hours on menopause. 6 hours in a 4-year. Alexa, how many hours are in 4 years? Just throwing a number out there.
4 years is 35,040 hours.
Okay, so 35,040 hours. You can only get to devote 6 to something so important for us ladies. And of course, for somebody going into the emergency room because it's so bad, your heart palpitations are so bad, your sweats are so bad, you can't take it anymore. And I've heard of people with this severe sweats, and it sucks. It sucks to hear about it. It sucks to think that you could be going through it too. So, you can't just trust. If you're listening to this or you know anybody that could be going through perimenopause or going through the sweats right now, and they're going into their doctor, you cannot just trust that your doctor knows. This woman deep dive on all the studies and research, and she is now an expert in perimenopause and menopause, and she's out here trying to spread the word, spread the gospel, ladies. So if you're in that scenario and you feel like you've been misdiagnosed, go in and tell your doctor, hey, it's estrogen. It's an estrogen withdrawal I'm feeling. You need to go run through the gamut of all of my levels to make sure to see what I'm deficient in, because that is going to get you back on track and get those night sweats taken care of. You can't just put all your faith into one person because they have a doctor title. You have to make sure they have some kind of knowledge or background in the things that you're going through, especially something as big as menopause or perimenopause. Just saying. My own humble opinion as a female to a female. Just throwing it out there. Anxiety
16
medicine.
more minutes.
Well, back to, how women in general are studied in medicine and women are treated in medicine. So if we look at the history of NIH funding, okay, NIH in the US is National Institutes of Health. So outside of big pharma research, this is the government institution that funds research in health. Okay. And I think their budget is, in the billions. Women's health gets a small percentage of that, but menopause gets 0.03%, 0.03% of the total budget. So, and when we look at, the McKinsey company did this incredible review. They looked at 680 general medical studies. And they found that only 50% looked at health outcomes for sex differences, male versus female. So only half. And it was only since 1993 that women were required to be part of these medical studies from the NIH. So they were worried about it. Women are harder to study because we have cycles and things change during our cycles. And then in perimenopause, it's chaotic. And then postmenopause. So they're like, let's just do men and we're just going to apply what we find to women, except we are not little men with breasts and uteruses. There are so many gender differences or, sex differences in how we respond to medications and how we present in the ED for certain medical conditions that have just not been taught. Now, these things are being recognized now, and hopefully we're moving in the right direction. But for you and I, we have a whole generation of clinicians who were trained that women are just little men and this is how they present and these are the medications we should give them. It's a systemic problem.
Like a
and
one-size-fits-all.
It's a huge ship to course correct, but it's worth doing, but we're going to have to fight for it.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. Okay, so we're down to the heart.
Yeah, so we did heart. So big, one of the biggest things is palpitations. And so we have like the acute things that happen in menopause. So these are the hot flashes, the night sweats, and the palpitations, and the brain fog, okay? Then we have the long-term chronic health effects that we'll get to later.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about atherosclerosis. So when we get to the lungs, we have new onset of asthma that pops up during menopause. Estrogen, as it turns out, is a very powerful anti-inflammatory hormone. So it gives us a level of protection. And when those levels decline, the inflammatory diseases like autoimmune disease, like asthma, we see a resurgence of these things or, in the perimenopause transition. And when you develop asthma as a perimenopausal woman, it's a very atypical asthma and it doesn't respond to the usual treatments, not as well. Yeah.
And so you could potentially have never had asthma before and then it starts to show.
So for myself, never had asthma in my life, I was not an allergic person, never had allergies. I have like penicillin allergy. So since menopause, about 50% of the time when I get an upper respiratory infection, I get a cold, right? I'll sore throat, runny nose, whatever, cough. I get a lot of them because I work in healthcare and I'm constantly seeing patients. And when the virus clears, when it goes down the oropharynx and I develop a cough, I'm developing bronchitis 50% of the time. That is non-infectious and very, very inflammatory. And I usually have to get on steroids in order to get the cough to stop. This is new for me in menopause. And so it's really made me think about, okay, is this how my lungs and my bronchioles are reacting to the loss of estrogen? Even though I'm on hormone replacement, what I tell my patients, nothing's better than your 25-year-old ovaries. I can't put those back inside of you. HRT is great, but it's not going to fix everything, right? We still have to do all of the things, the nutrition, the movement,
HRT is hormone replacement therapy. So that's when they go and they test, they take all your, they do all the tests that they do to check in on what is it that you're lacking. It sounds like estrogen is a big part. B vitamins is a big part. Vitamin D is a big part. And your fish oils. So, I mean, these are things that you can supplement on your own, but why not? Why take too many or why do that if you don't need it? But estrogen is not something, I feel like that's something you have to get. I don't know. I've never taken extra estrogen, so I'm not going to speak on it as if I do know it. But I do feel like that's something your doctor obviously has to define for you. But it's crazy to think that estrogen is something that is so vital in all of this. It seems like all doctors in that field if you're an OBGYN, you can't be coming correct and being like, oh, this person's having hot flashes, let me give them an anti-anxiety pill. I mean, I do know that some medications do, assist in other ways other than the one that they're created for. But I definitely feel like if it's an estrogen thing, in most cases for people that have studied perimenopause and menopause and what the body goes through, if it's a lack of estrogen or an estrogen withdrawal, that seems to be where you should roll into if someone's coming in with hot flashes or heart palpitations from hot flashes. Okay, just saying. Sounds
So,
Which I want to make sure, by the way, that we get into the deep things
Yeah.
of what we can do after this.
so lungs, so gut, the gut microbiome. So the Zoe nutrition study is one of my favorites.
What's the Zoe nutrition
So
study?
Zoe Nutrition is they came out of the UK and they started studying, I think even before COVID. And it's really the world's largest nutrition study, but they looked at 1,100 women and followed them through perimenopause, postmenopause, and looked at their gut health over time. And, they cross-matched for age, they basically took two unique groups, same groups, and followed them through menopause and found that the gut microbiome changes from that of a healthy female to that of a male.
Whoa!
Through when you lose your estrogen. Now, we have an estrobolome, which is the part of the gut microbiome that recirculates estrogen through the body. So, our gut health is like critical to our overall health, mental health, everything. We all know this now, but that's why women tend.
Did she just say you turn from the gut of a female to the gut of a male because you've lost so much estrogen? I didn't realize that we had such different guts. I thought a gut is a gut, but look at me now, learning new things. Learn something new every day.
tend to get more bloated or have more GI issues through the menopause transition. So we know that women on hormone therapy, so this is what she did, found the women who were on hormone therapy, their gut was healthier. They had a greater, less than that of a man. Men have less healthy guts than women typically, and as far as their gut microbiome, the diversity. So the more diverse amount of bugs you have in the gut, the healthier you are in general. And so, and the types of predominant microbiome guts, gut bugs are, very specific to female versus male. So they can reverse some of that with hormone therapy.
Wow, that's crazy.
Of course, you must eat the fiber and you must eat all the plants and you must do all the things. That's also very important. But hormone therapy can go a long way there as well.
Knowing you should eat healthy is one thing, but actually doing it day after
fiber
day
is
freaking a lot harder. And that's
This is very important in this process. Oops.
Anti-inflammatory hormone, take it away, things tend to get inflamed. We're still aging,
Oops.
right?
Let me back it up. I'm sorry. And right there.
best order right now. Go over, you won't regret it. So the combination of lifestyle, diet, and then therapy is the key to that. All right, well, sign me up, girl.
Go. Sign me up, go.
Okay. And just to enhance what you said about the gut as well, of how that can, I thought it was so woo-woo, I'm just going to be honest, when my gut really, I felt like it erupted 9 years ago. And everyone's like, no, it's your lifestyle. And I was like, what are they talking about? Like, it's only about the food that I eat. It doesn't have anything to do with hormones. Like, I didn't understand the impact that the gut has on the body and the body has on the gut. And so mood swings, you want to talk about like the time that I was the most emotionally irregular, where I just couldn't sustain my moods, was when I had the worst gut. So now I'm putting the two together. It's like, okay, well, already lack of estrogen is creating these mood swings, and now your gut, you can't get to equalize the combination.
Right.
Oh,
It's a lot harder.
yeah, it's a lot harder.
So much harder. I mean, I have to, sleep and my gut are the two things that are non-negotiables for me, and that I have to protect. And so I'm always like, the mantra in my head now when I look at my plate is plants, protein, and fiber. I'm just always like, do I have plants? Do I have enough protein? And is there enough fiber there?
That's a great idea, to have a method that you can make sure.
Yeah.
Plants,
Okay,
protein,
so that's
and
the
fiber.
gut.
That's it.
So then we move on to the, let's go to the musculoskeletal system.
Plants,
Again,
protein, and
estrogen,
fiber.
really powerful anti-inflammatory hormone. Take it away, things tend to get inflamed. We're still aging, right? So we have this level of protection with estrogen. And one of the things like that made the internet explode when I talked about it online is this thing called frozen shoulder. And it is an adhesive capsulitis that pretty much majority occurs in women in the perimenopause and menopause transition. And so it is the capsule around the shoulder joint becomes adhesed. And so women suddenly find you're trying to take a picture with your girlfriends and you can't get your arm to go back, or you can't lift your arm above here, or you're having trouble like brushing your hair in the back because that shoulder joint becomes frozen. And so this is a great story. There were 2 heads of departments at Duke University. I think it was orthopedic surgery and OB-GYN, and they were both female. And I really hope I get these details correct. And they were like, I guess, having lunch one day and said, man, look at all these patients with frozen shoulder. Yeah. And they decide to start pulling charts and do a literature, do research. And they found that women who were on hormone therapy had a much lower incidence of frozen shoulder than those who weren't. So they write this thing up. It's beautifully done. It's a beautiful study. And they cannot get a single orthopedic journal to publish it. So they end up getting one of the menopause journals to publish it. And so I talked about it online, and that was one of my most viral videos, with the women just filling the comment section of, oh my God, that happened to me, that happened to me, that happened to me.
Interesting. Because I guess in my world of fitness and health, like if you were working out too hard or in your 40s and you feel like, my arm's a little stiff, or maybe I slept strange last night and I have a little crick in my neck, or my shoulder is just feeling a little weird, let me stretch it out. I would not think of it. Like, I would never have related this to anything to do with perimenopause. I would feel like I'm having a stiff shoulder because I did now, if you don't work out, you haven't done that, I would kind of relate it to, must have slept weird because I can't get a full rotation in my arm, or I can't go all the way back like I used to. Or maybe you were never able to go all the way back like that to start with. So these are the things that I feel like, in my own humble opinion, that get a little shaky for me, because it's like, how can you really gauge if somebody really didn't have very big motion, range of motion prior to that, or you're working out and maybe you've had shoulder issues before? How do you distinguish between this and that? How do you distinguish its difference? If you've had a crick in your neck before, maybe you've had, your arm freeze up before because of you slept wrong. Is it that different? I would love to hear from some of you ladies that have had this. She said it was flooding her inbox talking about it. I would love for you guys to reach out to me and tell me about this. You can reach me at behindthelayerspodcast@gmail.com. That's just spelled all the way out, behindthelayerspodcast@gmail.com. Tell me about it. I would love to hear your story, share your story. Is it so different? Is it such a different scenario? I don't know. I can't attest to it, but to me, it wouldn't be enough because of being in the fitness world and working out, or even just sleeping wrong in general. Having a bad time sleeping, or is it just constant and never goes away? Like, what is it about it? I'd like to know. I want to hear from you. It's called frozen shoulder.
And no one told me that it could have been related to my menopause. Not that it would have stopped it, but knowing that it could happen, and knowing that it's not your fault, you didn't do anything wrong, and that getting early and active physiotherapy can decrease the duration. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to unfreeze that shoulder. And so, it's just one of the highlights of what is very specific to women and was really ignored, because 93% of orthopedic surgeons are male. And when it doesn't happen to them, it's really hard for someone to understand that this actually could be related to menopause.
So, and she says, okay, this is something that also, not only can this happen, but it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work for you to get that shoulder unfrozen, is what she said. And if I'm not mistaken, this doctor is talking about the withdrawal or the lack of estrogen that the body's producing when it's going into the state of perimenopause. And if it's untreated by getting that estrogen replacement, that they call it HRT, hormone replacement therapy, then your body will go into that status of kind of getting all whacked out. That's why you have your hot flashes. That's why you have the brain fog. That's why you have, dry vaginal area. That's why you have a plethora of like gut issues, like what she was saying. And now a frozen shoulder, to me, seems like that's like your body's drawing the line now that you've had the lack of estrogen for way too long. Now your shoulder locks up, and she's saying this is something that you have to put a lot of work and time into getting that resolved. That's wild. And the fact that not many people that are even in the profession of OBGYN, which is a doctor to, for the ladies in their cervical and their downstairs, the waist below, like, that's scary that not many people even have the knowledge they need with the title that they have that are treating you, even have the knowledge of treating this the way that it should be. So, guys, got to do your research. Find out what the doctor that is seeing you actually knows and has an expertise in. If they're giving you anti-anxiety medicine for hot flashes, I think that maybe you might, my humble opinion, want to find someone who knows a little bit more about perimenopause and menopause.
Oh my God. And just to think about it, like, if I'm not a doctor, so if you told me like your shoulders due to your hormones and menopause, I'd be like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, I wouldn't have put the two together. Now you explain, you break it down, it's like, oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So for women, just to think about what this is doing to women's minds and their self-esteem and their confidence, right? You've got this ailment, you go to the doctor, they don't really know how to fix it. No one really gets it. You're not really talking to your friends. So now you feel alone. Now you can't actually go out and enjoy time with your friends and enjoy,
everything hurts.
Everything hurts.
So, frozen shoulder is one thing, but like the arthralgias and the joint pain, the hip pain, I used to wake up with like hip pain at night and think like, I had no injury. I hadn't worked out too hard. I probably wasn't even working out back then anyway, and so you just sit there and think, oh, I'm getting old, or right.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's not worth it for me to exercise or do anything because now I'm hurting myself.
Mm-hmm. So the idea that people can relate, like if you had told me, if I did a video on frozen shoulder and it's going to go viral, I'd be like, no, it won't. No one has like, it's so uncommon. So to think about that being one sign of how many elements us women are going through and just not talking about it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's such a hush. I even brought it up during the holiday, and I felt like, some of my family members were looking at me sideways when I was talking about it openly. Like, oh my gosh, I feel like I might, even though I have my regular hair, my wig hair, like, outfit. And I just feel like I was trying to openly say something about it. And I was kind of getting the side eye for a few family members that were also female. So I'm like, okay, is this something that is supposed to be hush hush? I feel like we should be talking about it more so we can share stories and not feel alone in it. And also just share as females to each other and even to your men. I talk about all my stuff to my boys, my teenagers, my college age boy, my husband. I talk about it in our house. It's healthy to communicate, and especially to teach them, because they're going to eventually one day have a girl in their life, or if my oldest does have a girl in his life, he's going to know those things. Sorry, I'm going to silence this. And to share and communicate, because it's a part of who we are. We're humans, and knowledge is power. So I feel like the more that you know, the more that you can understand and relate to and show empathy and compassion towards. But if you're not in the know, then how can you expect someone to be relatable or understand what you're going through, why you're snappy, why you're moody, why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, instead of leaving it open-ended for them to draw their own conclusions? Explain to them, hey, this is what I'm going through. Get a pamphlet, pull up a link for them, send them a link that they can read over themselves, and saying, hey, this is what I'm going through, just in case you care to familiarize yourself with these symptoms and the things that my body's going through right now. Then maybe you can understand me a little bit better. I think that's so healthy. And for females to not talk about it with other females, and you have a friend group that's not talking about it, come on, that's not a friend group. You should be able to openly speak with your friends about these things. Like that's just, especially girl to girl is kind of where I'm at with that. Even with the men, like, Look, you want to be my friend? You want to know what I'm going through? This is what I'm going through. If they're your true friends, they're going to listen to it. They're going to be there for you. They're going to, they're going to be your friend no matter what you have to say about it. I think open dialogue and communication is key to success in all things: friendships, relationships, business, everything, literally. So, ladies, you got to talk about it. Come on.
Right.
It's heartbreaking.
So now skin is another thing, dry skin. Most women know, my skin, I can like write on my legs and get, just from the dry skin. That I always had oily skin until menopause. So dry skin, dry eyes, dry mouth, dental changes from the drier mouth and the changes in our microbiome around our teeth. So we see a lot of increase of dental problems. We see itchy ears. That's another one that makes the internet go crazy. It's kind of that perfect storm. And so you just sit there and think, oh, I'm getting old. Or, right.
Oh, no.
And maybe it's not worth it for me to on a Q-tip, just get it in that ear canal, and then their itchy ears will
I'm so glad I asked that question.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. I'm sorry, you guys.
We see itchy ears. That's another one that makes the internet go crazy. It's kind of that perfect storm of our nerves become a little more inflamed. So some patients will come in feeling crawling sensations under their skin or just constantly itchy. The really dry, so you've got dry skin combined with, nerve inflammation, and you get these intense itchy patches. And when it's within your ear, they're like, oh my God. So I tell patients, take a little of your vaginal estrogen just on a Q-tip and get it in the ear canal a couple of times a week. And they're like, it's like a miracle.
So like you're actually, when you say vaginal estrogen, you mean basically your
Cream.
juice?
Yeah.
Oh, so not like...
So no, sorry.
So here I am thinking,
medicinally.
as you leave, I get my little...
They don't have any of that anymore. So no, you literally would take your medicinal vaginal estrogen cream, or I'll prescribe them the cream.
Real quick right here,
just
y'all.
take a tiny bit a couple of times a week on a Q-tip, just get it in that ear canal, and then their itchy ears will
I'm
usually
so
get
glad
better.
I asked that question.
Yeah, I'm like, thank you.
She's clarifying that she wasn't informing her viewers to take their vaginal excretion and put it on a Q-tip and rub it in your ear to help with the itchy ear syndrome when you are going through perimenopause or menopause. She is talking about your estrogen cream that you are prescribed to use in your vaginal area for dryness, and taking a little bit of that and put it in your ear, not what you're naturally secreting from your vaginal area and swabbing it with a Q-tip and sticking that in your ear. That's not what she's saying. Just to be clear on my end too, so you're understanding that properly.
This would have gone wrong in my house.
I know, in my head, everything with vaginal estrogen is a prescription.
Oh, like, okay, your vaginal juice, put it in your ear.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, knowing that that's just part of it is fascinating. Okay, so we're down to, let's talk about then the joints and stuff, because the thing that I hear a lot just growing up was my grandmother, she falls, she breaks a hip, and then within a couple of years, she got dementia and passed away.
So now we're going to talk about the chronic diseases that are associated with aging, but they accelerate in menopause. And yes, women live longer than men, but we're living 25% of our lives in poorer health than our male counterparts. So where men tend to be pretty functional until the very, very end, and then they have a heart attack or something, not to say that that's going to be all men, but this is the trend. Most men will actually have a very full life, a short, debilitated end, and then die, okay? Women are not doing that. Women are spending 5 to 10 years demented and debilitated and requiring long-term care. Even though we're living longer, it's in very, very poor health in general. And so taking aggressive stances in menopause, hormone therapy, changing your diet, focusing your exercise can really move that needle the other way. So here are the things that women don't realize, and things that I picked up in my clinic. So in 2021, I decided to focus my medical care only treating menopausal women. And I started seeing trends in blood work, cholesterol. 80% of my patients have new onset high cholesterol, meaning high LDL, lower HDLs. The negative effect, the bad cholesterol goes up and the good cholesterol goes down. And they are no changes in diet and exercise. And this is a sudden increase. And so that Zoe nutrition study I was talking about earlier, they were tracking that, and they see men versus women. Men have this very linear course of hypertension, blood pressure goes up, their cholesterol goes up, all the indicators for heart disease. It's kind of age, it goes up like this. Women, we enjoy a much lower course until perimenopause. And then it cranks up and surpasses the men. So the most likely thing a woman's going to die from is cardiovascular disease. Women don't realize that. And we are getting mistreated in the hospital. We're 7 times more likely to die from a heart attack in the hospital than a man because it takes them longer to figure out it's actually a heart attack because we have an atypical presentation. But why does this happen? So the cholesterol is directly related to declining estrogen levels and how it affects the liver. And women on hormone therapy, especially early, have a more advantageous cholesterol profile. So we're rushing to put women on statins, which have never been shown to decrease the rates of heart attack in women, primary heart attacks in a woman, or decrease her rate of death from a heart attack. And they have a lot of side effects. So yeah, her cholesterol goes down, but it's not helping her risk of heart attack. There are other cholesterol-lowering medications that probably work better in women, but we're routinely recommending them for women when they've only been shown to be helpful in men. Baby aspirin, how many times have you seen one of your parents, aunts, uncles on a baby aspirin to decrease their risk of a heart attack? Only in men. Never been shown to be helpful in women.
So we've seen these studies work, but the studies are done just on men. And so because the female's more complex, we just blanket statement put them on for women as well,
Right.
assuming that it's doing the same, having the same effect.
Right. And we're just attributing everything to aging and not really taking into account how menopause is accelerating these things and how intervention can help. And we can decrease suffering. And not only, women don't want to live longer. They want to live healthier. So they don't want to have their family having to take care of them for 10, 15 years, 5 years, however long that.
I mean, right? Do you agree? Would you rather live a shorter, healthier, sustainable, happy life shorter than living a longer period of time where you're indefinitely going to decline in cognitive functions, your health decline? If that's the case, of course, in my humble opinion, that I'm going to choose to live healthier to end of my days without just extending it to collect a number of, hey, I lived to be 104, but by that time I couldn't hear, I couldn't see, I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk. There are the cases of people that live in their hundreds, and I've seen them in the YMCA where I used to train, and it's doable, but you have to be committed to that lifestyle. I think she's speaking in a general function. Like, the patients that she sees aren't eating well every day and taking care of themselves and doing self-care and working out like they're supposed to and drinking enough water and all of the things. You have those people that I see in the YMCA that were celebrating their 104th or 100th birthday, that are still in there walking without a walker, not only just walking fine, but cognitively sharp as a tack, also doing workouts. That's what they're there to do. Like, it can be done, but I feel like you have to have a commitment. You have to make that commitment. You have to make that choice every day when you wake up that that's the life you want to live, and you want to live a long life like that. But to fall off the map and just say, oh, I'm going to live, but I have to have someone change my diaper and I can't walk on my own. And that's no life. That's not a life that I personally want to live. So if there's something I can do about that and stay around to watch my children and my grandchildren grow older, I'm going to do it. I want to do it because that's important and it means something to me. Your life is your own. You have to make your own decisions at the end of the day. But you having the knowledge to be able to make those decisions, I think, is very important also.
that last slog is. I mean, I tell my kids, I want to die like my dad. You know, I want to die like a man. My mother's been on a walker for 10 years, and she's now in the end stages of dementia. And we're struggling with having to, you know, how do we intervene for mom, you know, to make sure she's safe and everything. She wants to stay in her house, but that's becoming impossible. I don't want my kids to have these conversations, protracted conversations that my siblings and I are having every day. And the decisions I'm making right now are going to affect that, this, you know, that course that I'm going to have.
God, yeah, everyone listening, it really doesn't matter what age you're at. Like if you're the age of 30, it's coming for you. You know, it's like if you're 40 or 45 like I am, I know I'm about to, or potentially in perimenopause. So to think that every single woman, if you're alive, every single woman's going to go through
If you're
it.
lucky enough to live long enough, your ovaries will fail.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to deal with the consequences. Now, those consequences look different for each of us. You and I are going to have very different courses as far as the outside symptomatology, hot flashes, night sweats, joint pain, whatever. But all of our cholesterol tends to go up. Our vitamin D goes down because of our gut health. So I just started seeing these trends in clinic, and I'm like, no one taught me this. We're not talking about this, and how, you know, interventions, nutrition, diet, exercise are going to decrease the burden of disease as she ages. Right? And so let's talk about osteoporosis.
Yeah.
Okay. 50% of women will fall or will have an osteoporotic fracture before they die.
50%.
And we can decrease that dramatically. How do we do that? Hormone therapy is one. So the musculoskeletal unit works together. And when we go through the menopause transition, visceral fat goes up, muscle goes down.
Why does visceral fat go up?
So visceral fat, I wrote a whole book about that. So visceral fat is the fat that is deposited amongst our intra-abdominal organs. So it's the fat wrapping around our omentum, around the liver, sometimes around the heart, you know, the pericardial.
You guys know if I've talked about it once, I've talked about it twice on here. It is the fat around the organs, the fat that you don't want. The visceral fat is the fat you do not want. That's the fat around the organs. It's the fat that causes so many issues, that causes clogging. You don't want that fat. That's not the fat. And that's the fat that a lot of men tend to have around their organs at the later part when they start to get the beer belly or the, you know, the tire or the gut around. That's visceral fat. And that's the fat that's subsiding around the organs. And that's what she's saying, that if you're going through perimenopause or menopause, that you get as a female is a side effect from it.
And could not follow along with the stories. And this was the
Oh no, hold on. I was at one. I like to put a time frame on here because
and you get these intense cranks up
here we are.
hip. You have a 30% chance of death in 1 year, even with surgery. If you don't have the surgery, if you're not,
Okay.
23%.
Holy
I don't have to tell a woman this
Okay.
who's been through
All right.
menopause. She
I accidentally
knows
clicked the wrong
her
thing.
abdomen. And that is the biggest pain point that women were coming into my office was what is happening here.
Like I haven't changed anything. My diet's been the
And
same.
so
my
what was I
exercise-
taught in medical school? That's impossible. Oh, women tend to move less. Put down the fork. Da 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 da. She's like, I'm eating nothing. I'm eating healthy. And like this has happened. So it really, that was the turning point for me, was listening to them, believing them, and then diving into the science to figure out what the hell was going on and learning about how it's related to menopause and estrogen decline, you know, and all the things, which is the Galveston diet, you know, that's the premise behind that. And then that conversation just exploded to all menopause. And, you know, what started out for me, which was a very probably vain journey to get rid of some belly fat,
Get it.
became, what are we doing to women? You know, why are we not focusing on helping them get stronger so they don't fall and break a hip? Because if you fall and break that hip, you have a 30% chance of death in 1 year, even with surgery. If you don't have the surgery, if you're not well enough to have the surgery, which a lot of women aren't, you're gonna have a 78, in the 70% chance of death. And that year is.
So if you fall and break your hip because you now have a lack of estrogen, so your bones are in a weak and fragile status. So now that you are in this space, first of all, if you are healthy enough to be able to have the surgery. If you're healthy enough to have it, then your percentage of death within a year after that surgery, hip surgery, is at 30%. And then if you aren't very healthy, but they still have to they still let you have or put you through the surgery to fix your hip, because you need to have a fixed hip so you can move, so you're not bedridden for the rest of your days. Then your chances, if your body is not able to recover it the way that it should be, your chances are in the 70s percentile for death. That's wild. Ladies, listen up. So important to listen up. You got to listen up. Got to learn these things, y'all.
It's horrible, marked with massive decline. So we can decrease that probably by 50%. How do we do that? We eat enough protein. We lift heavy. There's certain supplements that can be helpful. Oral calcium is not helpful, does not increase your bone density. A lack of calcium in your diet is not great, but just swallowing calcium supplements has never been shown to decrease the risk of fracture. So really getting the message clear on strong over skinny and nutrition over calories, and lowering your inflammation naturally as much as possible, and doing the work. If you're not moving your body to become stronger, you will lose muscle. That is what we're genetically programmed to do, and it accelerates through menopause. It's not inevitable, but we have to work at it.
And if you lose the muscle mass, it's your muscles that burn your calories.
Right.
So if you're eating 1,500 calories every single day for 20 years, and you have, let's say, 10% muscle mass, and that declines, and that goes to 7% muscle mass.
Right.
Now you have less
so that's
muscle
your basal metabolic rate.
Yeah.
Right. And so you end up in that yo-yo pattern of starving yourself to get down, reducing the calories, and then you lose muscle, severe caloric restriction, which is where we worry about GLP-1s, and if I ever have a patient on them, we're counseling them extensively.
What's GLP-1?
Oh, like the incretins, the Ozempics and the Wegovys and the semaglutides. So, I think they can be a really powerful tool for patients, and I do prescribe them, but it's with massive counseling of, we must eat the protein, we must do the resistance training, we don't want to sacrifice muscle to get to a number on the scale, because then you're going to end up less healthy at the end. And not able to maintain your weight.
So if someone is, let's say, going through menopause, and they really, their self-esteem is diving, they've got this weight that they can't get rid of, and so you may prescribe them Ozempic or something like that, but it needs to also be piled on with healthy nutrition and then weightlifting specifically.
Exactly.
Okay, that is super powerful, you guys. Just to bring it home right here. She's saying that if you're going through this, let me write down the time frame that I'm at right now, just in case I lose it. If you're going through the weight gain part of perimenopause or menopause, and you all of a sudden start getting this belly fat out of nowhere, and you've always had a pretty lean body, or maybe you already have that belly weight and now it's exponentially bigger, something's different, things are changing, you feel like you're not changing the way you're eating, you're not eating more, you're not eating worse, things aren't changing in your life, but all of a sudden your body's starting to change, that could possibly be your hormonal change. And she's saying, she's not telling you guys, okay, let's go and get on Ozempic or whatever these, the weight loss shot is. But if you are on it, she's saying, don't just let it be you allowing your stomach. Really, all it's doing is keeping you from eating so much. You're keeping your weight down by not eating so much. You can literally do that on your own without putting this foreign drug into your body. But some people need that assistance, and to each his own. But if you have to go that route, she's saying, don't just get on that and then start shrinking down and waiting to see a number on a scale. And now you're seeing that it's actually eating away at your muscle. You need that muscle. If you are to do anything above cardio, strength training is where it's at. Strength training is where you stay healthy. Strength training is what keeps you healthier, stable, and for longer. It's not in the cardio. People with cardio and they don't strength train, they have significant problems with their health in the future because of all of the pressure and the joint pains and all of the things that they do on their body, pushing it so hard, and they don't have the muscle strength to adhere to all of the damage that's being done. You have to have muscle strength. Any doctor that I've ever had on this show, or that you can even look at, will tell you it's your muscles. You need to work on strength training. And it doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and have like this whole big gym membership. There's strength training you can do in your own home. It's literally just going, sorry about that, knock my phone over. You can do it on the wall. There's a lot of like wall workouts, chair workouts. I'm starting those in February if you want to join along and get your body in shape. The bands that I'm constantly talking about, I have them on my list here on YouTube. Those bands are like $7. That's strength training. You put them on your legs while you're sitting there watching your show. I'm all about that sitting and watching your show or hanging out in your house life, where I know a lot of people are doing it. I'm talking to a big market of people. You're not all about that. Like, I'm going to go to the gym and get a good workout on. But hey, if you're sitting here and you are watching something, you might want to, on a part where there's a lot of talking or maybe a little bored, you pick up a band and do some arm workouts, or pick up a band and doing some leg workouts, or maybe you're just doing some up downs and get those legs tightened up. Your strength training is so important. Going up to your wall and doing some wall push-ups is way better than doing nothing at all. And that's easy, free to do. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, because some of you that have not worked your arms out maybe ever, and now you're getting back into it. But I'm just saying it's a simple task for you to try and start out. That's free, that you don't have to buy any equipment for. And that's as simple as that. Maybe saying easy is the wrong word. I redact that. But simple, a simple workout that you go up and try to tackle along. There's so many people that post workouts these days. You just have to make sure, like me, how I post my workouts for my clients and for you all to enjoy for free, is form. Form is everything. When you're doing these, you're working on your muscle tone. You're not working on injury. So make sure the person that you're following along with is teaching you form. It's so important to keep you out of the injury zone, because you don't want to be, look, some of these injuries that can actually cause very long time frames of you not being active are simple movements, tiny little movements that are being done the wrong way, and they are causing long-term injury effects, like tennis elbow, for instance, doing a push-up in the wrong way, or doing a plank in the wrong way, and having your rotator cuff be dislocated, or the damage being done to your rotator cuff because you're trying to put too much weight on that. You have to really focus on, who am I going to take advice from? Who's really big on showing me the techniques? Maybe I'm new, maybe I'm just getting back into it, or maybe I'm starting a new program that I've never done before, like chair or wall exercising or floor Pilates or what have you. Just make sure you're following someone or doing along. If you're not gonna do it along with me and watch my workouts, then make sure the person that you are watching is somebody that is going to take the time to describe it to you. It's so important. Let me go back.
So it's not for everyone.
Sure.
I think it can be a really powerful tool, but it's not, I don't think of it as a miracle. Some of my patients think it's a miracle because they've worked their whole lives, and it's taken up so much mental space for them, and to take that mental part of it off the table. I've never had that, so it's hard for me to understand, but to listen to them and watch family members who struggled for their entire lives, suddenly to have that mental chatter of food being taken off the table, and now they can think about exercise and nutrition. It gives them that space to build out the rest of their lives in a healthier way. It's really amazing.
True.
But when the patients come in, I have an hour with my patients, and I'm very fortunate that I can run a clinic like that. And they have to unpack their menopause trauma, so we have to give them time and space to do that. And then we have a full discussion on hormone therapy, nutrition, exercise. I usually bring them back a few weeks later. And then, I have a body scanner where I'm measuring muscle mass and visceral fat. We're having very intense conversations around that. So it's kind of a stepwise.
I love those things, those body scanners. If your doctor has one, you should ask your doctor if you can get scanned so you can see the difference in your especially if you're starting a new program, get scanned prior to and say, I'm going to start this new program. I just want to see where I'm at now to see where I am when I'm done with the program. Like the program I'm going to start putting out there for February. So if you're going to get scanned like sometime, in the beginning of February, whatever you want to join in, it's a good gauge to see. So the scanner gauges your hydration level, your fat level, your visceral fat level, your muscle mass, your BMI, goes through a whole gamut of things. So it kind of tells you where your physicality is. And then going back in at the end of the program and getting rescanned is really quite fascinating and exciting to see how much your body actually has changed with a new workout regimen or a new eating regimen, or maybe both. So that's where we're starting in February. So I really do hope that you guys follow along, stay tuned, be a part of this new manifestation, this new journey for 2025, and bringing you into a new element, leveling your game up. Let's level up. Time to level up. Who's ready to level up? And doing it all for free. So getting the test done, I'm sure if your insurance doesn't cover it, that's going to be a cost. But you can go through the whole program. It's a free program. It's just time dedication, and we're doing it together as a group. So I feel like camaraderie and knowing that you're not alone in your struggles and sharing your ideals is something exciting. And why not do something that is free to do, that is supposed to be this whole algorithm of how you can manifest literally anything that you have your mind set to. I know I'm talking about it a lot on each of these podcasts these days, but it's leading up to the February 1st when we are going to start this manifestation, and that all embodies if you want to level your game up by open your ante with your eating, start doing intermittent fasting, eating in a window. Maybe you want to work your way towards doing that. We're going to do 2 3-day fasts in that, which are 2 full body resets. You can just do one of those, or maybe you want to do both of those, but it's a full body, full reboot, metabolic reboot. And that is the 3-day fast. And we're going to do that during the time where we're doing the manifestations, because it has been shown in studies time and time again that when you're working with a manifestation type of process where you're trying to change your life, change the rhythm, the pattern, and the energy around your life, and really truly manifesting greatness, and that can be in the form of all kinds of physical things, a job change. Now you're getting all of these wonderful things that you had always been dreaming of, and they're coming to fruition. Who wouldn't want to invest in that if it's just a time commitment, and it's a very small time commitment, and it's just a conscious commitment and being aware of yourself, the way you're treating others, the way that you're thinking about gratitude. It's going to be beautiful. And the more you spread that love, and the more you want to, maybe you have somebody that is really down in the dumps and they've just had a really rough year, and they're looking for 2025 to be the absolute best year that they could possibly ever imagine. Share this podcast with them. Share this journey with them. You guys join in on February 1st. It doesn't have to be this. Yesterday's podcast was more about that. But share this channel with them, because we're going to start on that together on February 1st. And we're going to start sharing our stories and seeing, how this is actually benefiting each of us throughout this journey. And a big part of that is, our eating. And some people are going to do even the 3rd level, which is adding a workout in. I'm going to start the whole chair workout routine, which is literally for everybody. It's a chair workout routine, and it is helping with every part of your physical, which will tie into your mental, which will tie into your eating and all of the things. It's all going to be encompassing. You can choose which level you want to do. If you just want to do the manifestations and the rituals in the morning of just saying gratitude and thanks to the things in your life, then do that. But I'm going to have it all laid out. It's going to drop tomorrow. Is that the 31st? It's going to drop on the 31st, everything laid out, because the very first night of it is going to be the 1st of February. So please do like, subscribe, follow whichever platform you're watching this on. I'm streaming through YouTube right now. So follow along on the journey, and please join in. It's going to be so great. I cannot wait for it. We are going to finish off with what she's saying. My time's coming to a close. If you guys have any questions or you have some comments, or you want to ask about the upcoming manifestation journey in February, please do write me at behindthelayerspodcast@gmail.com. Behindthelayerspodcast@gmail.com. Or if there's a topic you'd like me to cover on the podcast, just let me know. I love hearing from you guys. So, and thank you for support. Thank you for being here. I am a mom trying to, support and provide for her family. So I always appreciate the love you guys give when you send me money or tip me or support the stream. I'm always very grateful for it. I just learned that X has a tip jar, which is really cool. It's right next to the notification bell. So I appreciate the love you guys are giving me there, and all the gifts you're giving me on TikTok is I'm so grateful. So thank you so much. Let's continue on.
Progression. Also, testosterone can be really helpful for muscle mass and bone density as well.
Okay, so that was so beautifully broken down. And so just to make sure that I understand, though, the visceral fat is always,
Let me back it up.
They really, their self-esteem is diving. They've got this weight that they can't get rid of. And so you may prescribe them Ozempic or something like that, but it needs to also be piled on with healthy nutrition and then weightlifting specifically.
Exactly. So it's not for everyone.
Sure.
I think it can be a really powerful tool, but it's not, I don't think of it as a miracle. Some of my patients think it's a miracle because they've worked their whole lives, and it's taken up so much mental space for them, and to take that mental part of it off the table. I've never had that, so it's hard for me to understand, but to listen to them and watch family members who struggled for their entire lives, suddenly to have that mental chatter of food being taken off the table, and now they can think about exercise and nutrition. It gives them that space to build out the rest of their lives in a healthier way. It's really amazing. But, when the patients come in,
I never really looked at it like that. So I'm even going to reverse course here a little bit, because I always feel like, you can gain your greatest health on your own. I'm a very self-motivated person, but I do realize that not everybody's like that. So maybe I have approached this shot in a unlikely way. Have I had some of my clients get on that? Absolutely. Was I hesitant to even say go that route? Of course I was. I definitely feel like if we can't get you there on your own, I feel like you're capable of getting there on your own. But if you feel like you can't, and you're stuck in that can't space, which many people are, and that's okay. That's who you are. But I do feel like me as a motivator and trying to push people to live their best life and be in their best element. And I know you can do it. And yes, you can. And yes, you can. You can be that cheerleader all you want. But at the end of the day, if that person doesn't see themselves the way that you see them, it's kind of like, I wish, this old romantic saying, I wish that you could see me. I wish that you could see yourself through my eyes. Not everybody's kind of critical. Well, not everybody. Many people are very critical of themselves when they look in the mirror, and they're harsh, and they're, their own worst critic. So I get it. So I never really looked at that shot in that manner, for people, because really all those semaglutide shots are doing is stopping you from wanting food. So it's the same thing we do with intermittent fasting or long-term water fasting. Same concept, without putting this foreign drug into your body, which we still don't know what the outcome is going to be on the other end. But she's saying if that shot gives you the space to stop thinking about food for a minute and start being able to have a little bit of time to breathe and think about, okay, maybe I'm going to start a little nutrition. Maybe I want to start a little workout regime, focusing on the more positive things. And in the meantime, your body has got a little break of all the food coming in. Now it can start processing and actually do its job, which is feed off all that food that's stored. It's the feast and famine. We're not meant to be having all of this stored food all the time. That was meant for how God created us, because it's feast and famine. You eat till you can't eat anymore. And then your body, you may not eat for 3 or 4 days or 5 days. That's the famine. Now your body will just feed off that. That's why our bodies are meant to store that extra fat that you don't burn up through calories burnt in your day. Back in the day, you would rest. If you knew there was food was scarce, you would take a lot of rest time because you didn't want your body to eat up all of those calories you had stored because you need to survive. And you're not sure when the next food. We were meant to just be having endless food be able to be delivered to us at all hours, and just constant supply of fast food chains and food around us at all times. So I noticed, like, when I went to a desolate area to film the TV show, and we were in a desolate area in Mexico, you know, we killed our food that we were eating, which I loved. They grew their food from the garden. So if that food wasn't available, there was no snacking. And I mean, I was in the best shape. I was seeing everybody around me in that same type of shape. Like, you're eating what you had, and then there's not a lot of, you're eating what your meals that we killed for. And then, like, the animals that we took their lives, we paid homage to them by, this was feeding a village. It was feeding us. It was literally feeding the village around us. All the extra food that we had. So it was really enduring to kind of get back to basics like that, and really start to have an awareness of how much food, how much over over the amount as we should have in some of these restaurants, how much just like wasted food. I don't know if you've ever been in a restaurant, especially here in the South. They portions are big. Texas big. But I don't know if you've ever been in a restaurant and seen how many plates were being cleared from a table that were just packed with so much food, just like being wasted. It's really an eye opener on our society and our country, and how we look at food, how we go through food, how we've been like given this food from the time that we're born, how we're just like overeating all the time. So it is different for me now to look at it how she put it. Sometimes it's perspective. Somebody has to put it to you in a way that you can see it differently. I'm very logic minded, especially my whole background being in holistic nurturing and medicine, and healing from the inside out, and everything kind of being on a natural measure of, your body's so intricate, it can heal itself. All you got to do is provide it the right, you know, feast and famine, like time when you're feeding and time when you're not, time to let it rest, sleep patterns, workout patterns, work patterns, like everything in balance. So for me to hear, okay, there could be a positive side to taking these shots, and that's because those who can't, are in that can't life and putting those parameters on themselves, and they're really struggling, are having a problem saying, hey, I'm going to eat in this window, or hey, I'm not going to eat these snacks today. If they're struggling with that, and she's saying the shot is where I'll go to, because it will force them to stop putting all of that food in their mouth all the time because you feel nauseous. From the people that I've spoken to that take the shot or have been on the shot, it makes you feel nauseous. Doctors talk about it. It gives you a little nausea in the beginning, and then it subsides, and then you just get used to not really being hungry. Your stomach shrinks. You start losing a lot more weight. But the problem is that people stop putting emphasis on their strength training. So then it eventually starts eating in your muscle, and then you become extra unhealthy. So just being very mindful, being with a doctor who actually knows what they're doing too, to help you along that journey, and saying, because I know you can go on like Instagram or Facebook or any of these places now, TikTok, and you can see an ad for it from somebody, from a business, and all you got to do is fill out a little questionnaire, and then you're all hooked up, and then they're going to send you this prescription. But I feel like you want to be with someone who is actually going to say, hey, this is going to happen. You're going to lose the weight. You're going to get there. But wait a second. You really need to focus on strength training, because you don't want to get yourself into a space where you're becoming extremely unhealthy, because now you're not going to have the muscles to support your skeletal system inside. You're not going to have the muscles that you need to support the lymphatic system and all of the moving elements inside of your body that you need. So be careful and be mindful of that it will eat away at your muscle, and you need that muscle. You need strength training just as much, if not more, than cardiovascular. I'm telling you, because when you are strength training, you are still getting a little bit of cardiovascular. You're just making sure that you're really putting emphasis on that muscle and keeping that muscle strong and active so it can do all of the things that you need to do inside. And you're not just getting weaker and weaker. You're not going to be able to pull yourself up out of a chair or off the floor. I've seen it. I've had clients just like that. And it's not a space you want to be in, especially if you're trying to get on a healthier pattern, which some of you that are on semaglutides that are taking the shot, Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever it is, you are doing it because you want to change your life. You want to change and get healthier. But just be mindful that getting healthier means, hey, you're on that pattern, maybe spending a little more time now thinking about, okay, these are some things I'm going to start switching up in my, there's so many, I post so many cool recipes that are simple, easy to do, and and they are still so tasty. I'm a foodie. I love food. So I like to do it where it's tasty. I used to be a cook for my clients and keeping them in their, I would do all their prepared meals to keep them on topic or on the wagon, I guess, of the nutrition that they needed to be on. So I am all about it still tasting very yummy, but having these little tweaks in the recipe to make it still yummy, but very healthy for you. So there's so many things out there. If you don't want to look at mine and you don't want to like follow me on this page, go just look for healthy, just put like keto meals or healthy substitutions for traditional meals, whatever the genre you're looking in, healthy substitution for Italian food or healthy substitution for Mexican food or healthy, that kind of thing. Look it up. There's so many great recipes out there, and like so many people are on that healthy journey because they are seeing that it is a very big situation in our country and they want to get better. And people are tired of feeling sick and ill and foggy and lethargic and just not like doing anything. That's not living. In my humble opinion, that's not living. And that's why I tell my clients, it's not living. I want to get you to where you're living your best life from the inside out, to where you feel like, I'm going to go on a hike today. I'm near the mountains, so I'm going on a hike today. I'm going to go on a nice brisk walk today because you can. You're not bedridden anymore. You're not wheelchair bound anymore. You don't need that walker anymore. I've had all sorts, shapes, sizes, all different levels, ages, issues with your body, everything you can think of. And there is not one client that can come on here and say that they haven't been in their best light when training with me or working with me as a wellness coach. Not one. Because the things I give you are, once you come to terms with them, are going to be a simple equation of the things you need to do. And we work at a small little molehill at a time to reach to the top of that mountain, where you can stand with arms wide and be like, I did it. I'm here. And you feel so good. And you're actually able to start living your life. And many times my clients go on and do their own thing because I've taught the little birdies how to fly. Does that help me in my finances? No, but it helps me in my spiritual finance, which I find the most alluring. Is you help someone learn how to live their life to the fullest. That's so beautiful. That's the gift right there, right? That's where you want to be. You guys, I talked over my time, but this video we've been watching is so fascinating. If you want to watch the rest of it, go to my YouTube page. I put up on my YouTube page. Let me show you how to get to it. Okay. So let's go back here. If you go to my page, let me view my channel. Okay. Going to my YouTube page looks like this. Go to my YouTube page. You're going to go over to where it says playlists right here. You guys can see that. I think you can. Yep, right there where it says playlist. Okay. You're going to go over to playlist, and it's the very first playlist right here. It's called Podcast Infovids. That's where I put all the videos that I show here. These are the ones that I deep dove on and I researched on, and I make sure that everything that I show you and we talk about here has been tried and true, researched, and it is something that has studies to back it. Most of them are doctors that are on here, and they've got all their studies and their research to back their their knowledge that they're sharing on here on these podcasts. So I put it up there so you guys can always go back and watch the rest of it. You can deep dive on your own, do your own research on these people. I don't ever keep anything from you. It's an open book here on Behind the Layers. We're here to uncover the facts and the myths, the truths and the secrets of all the layers of the beauty, fitness, and wellness industry. So that's what this is all about here. I want you guys to living your best life from the inside out. Again, if you have any questions or you want to talk to me about anything you're going through in those fields that I have background in, then I really would love to hear from you. Just write me to behindthelayerspodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to speak with you, or you can reach out on any of these avenues by messaging me, and I will try to get to you as soon as I can. There's a lot of messages in there. I'm working my way through it. But I do appreciate you guys so much for being here. I am filled with so much gratitude of being able to have this platform and being able to share all my expertise with you guys. It really does bring me such joy, and I'm so grateful for you here. And I hope that you find something that can help you, or maybe you hear something that helps motivate and inspire you to want to start changing things in your life, and knowing that you can do that for free, and that it just takes a little bit of dedication on your time, on your end. I hope that there's something that motivates you to do that. And if you want to join in February, please do like, subscribe, follow on whatever page you're on. And we are going to be joining that. We're going to be doing that on February 1st. So make sure you check back throughout the days of me posting up of exactly what we're going to be doing. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, bye. Stay well. Stay healthy. See you tomorrow.